College Biology 101. Chapter 1. Exploring Life. Question. What is biology? Answer. The word biology means the science of life from the Greek bios, which means life, and logos, which means word or knowledge. Therefore, biology is the science of living things. That is why biology is sometimes known as life science. Question. What is evolution? Answer. Evolution is the process of change in all forms of life over generations, and evolutionary biology is the study of how evolution occurs. An organism inherits features, called traits, from its parents through genes. Changes, called mutations, in these genes can produce a new trait in the offspring of an organism. In biology, evolution is the process of change in the inherited traits of a population of organisms from one generation to the next. Question. What is a living thing? Answer. All living things are composed of matter structured in an orderly way where simple molecules are ordered together into much larger macromolecules. An easy way to remember this is the acronym Grimmner-C, G-R-I-M-N-E-R-C. All organisms grow, G is for grow. All organisms respire, R is for respire. All organisms interact, I is for interact. All organisms move, M is for move. All organisms need nutrients, N is for nutrients. All organisms excrete waste, E is for excrete. They reproduce, R is for reproduce. And all organisms are made of cells, C is for cells. Question. What are some characteristics of living things? Answer. Living things all have some similar traits. Firstly, living things are sensitive, meaning that they are able to respond to stimuli. Secondly, living things are able to grow, to develop, and to reproduce. Thirdly, all known living things use the hereditary molecule DNA. And fourthly, internal functions are coordinated and regulated so that the internal environment of a living thing is relatively constant. This is referred to as homeostasis. Question. Define the levels of biological organization from molecules to the biosphere. Answer. Living things are organized from atoms up to the biosphere or Earth. Atoms are arranged into molecules. Molecules into macromolecules. Macromolecules make up organelles. Organelles work together to form cells. Cells together form tissues. Tissues make up organs. Organs are part of organ systems. Organ systems work together to form an entire organism. Beyond this, organisms form populations. Populations make up parts of an ecosystem. All of the Earth's ecosystems together form the diverse environment that is the biosphere or Earth. So what is the level of organization biologically? It goes from atoms to molecules to macromolecules to organelles to cells to tissues to organ systems to populations to ecosystems to the biosphere. Question. Provide an example for each level of biological organization, from molecules to the biosphere. Answer. Subatomic particles like neutrons and protons make up atoms of elements like hydrogen. Hydrogen atoms make up molecules of the phospholipid membrane of mitochondria. Mitochondria are present in large quantities in cardiac muscle cells. Cardiac muscle tissue is made from cardiac muscle cells. Cardiac tissue makes up the human heart, which is an organ. The human heart is part of the circulatory system, which is a key organ system in the human body. The circulatory system is one of many that makes up the human body. Humans make up populations all over the world. Populations make up ecosystems such as a region like the state of Texas in the United States. Ecosystems like Texas make up the biosphere, or Earth. Question. What are emergent properties? Answer. An emergent property is a property that a collection or a complex system has, but which the individual members of the system do not have. It is the property where living things become more and more complex as they go from the cellular level, for example, cardiac cells, to the organ system level, for example, the circulatory system. Emergent properties are based on the concept that the whole is greater than the composition of its parts. For example, the heart is made of cardiac cells. But if we were just to have heart cells, they wouldn't do anything. However, if we have the whole heart, it will perform the important function of pumping blood. That function is an emergent property. Question. Define reductionism. Answer. Reductionism tries to understand the nature of complex things by reducing them to the interactions between their different parts. For example, in the sciences, most aspects of chemistry are based on physics, and similarly, many aspects of microbiology are based on chemistry. This is reductionism. Question. What are the limitations of reductionism in the study of biology? Answer. Emergent properties expose the limitations of reductionism. For example, memory and consciousness can be emergent properties of the brain. However, when a person dies, their consciousness and memory are extinguished. Their brain is intact. Reductionism cannot explain this phenomenon. Therefore, reductionism is limited in the study of biology. Question. What is systems biology? Answer. Systems biology is a biology-based interdisciplinary study field that focuses on the systematic study of complex interactions in biological systems. It uses a new perspective, integration instead of reductionism, to study these complex interactions within biological systems. Question. What is science? Answer. Science is a method for learning about the world. It involves the application of knowledge. Question. What is the scientific method? Answer. The scientific method is not a step-by-step linear process. It is an intuitive process, a methodology for learning about the world through the application of knowledge. Scientists must be able to have an imaginative preconception of what the truth is. They will often observe and then hypothesize the reason why a phenomenon occurred. They use all of their knowledge and a bit of imagination, all in an attempt to uncover something that might be true. Therefore, the scientific method deals with systematic investigation, reproducible results, the formation and testing of hypotheses which may arrive through intuition, and reasoning. Question. What process does the scientific method follow? Answer. Scientists first make observations that raise a particular question. In order to explain the observed phenomenon, they develop a number of possible explanations or hypotheses. This is the inductive part of science, observing and constructing plausible arguments for why an event occurred. Experiments are then used to eliminate one or more of the possible hypotheses until one hypothesis remains. Using deduction, scientists use the principles of their hypothesis to make predictions and then test to make sure that their predictions are confirmed. After many trials and all predictions have been confirmed, the hypothesis then may become a theory. Question. Define observation. Answer. Observation refers to quantitative and qualitative measurements of the world. Question. Define inference. Answer. Inference is the step of deriving new knowledge based upon old knowledge. Question. Define hypothesis. Answer. A hypothesis is a suggested explanation. Question. What is a rejected hypothesis? Answer. A rejected hypothesis is an explanation that has been ruled out through experimentation. Question. What is an accepted hypothesis? Answer. An accepted hypothesis is an explanation that has not been ruled out through excessive experimentation and makes verifiable predictions that are true. Question. What is an experiment? Answer. An experiment is a test that is used to rule out a hypothesis or validate something that is already known. Question. What is a theory? Answer. A theory is a widely accepted hypothesis that stands the test of time. It is often tested and usually never rejected. Theories are nothing but hypotheses which have withstood repeated attempts at falsification. Common theories include evolution by natural selection and the idea that all organisms consist of cells. The scientific community asserts that much more evidence supports these two ideas than contradicts them. Question. How do organisms interact with their environments? What do they exchange with each other? Answer. Living organisms interact with their environment continuously, exchanging matter and energy. This is one of the fundamental principles of any ecosystem. Organisms can either be producers or consumers in terms of energy flow through an ecosystem. Producers convert energy from the environment into carbon bonds, such as those found in the sugar glucose. Plants are the most obvious examples of producers on Earth. Plants take energy from sunlight and use it to convert carbon dioxide into glucose or other sugars. Herbivores, like cows, that eat plants are examples of consumers. Question: what are two processes involved in the machinery of ecosystems? Answer: an individual ecosystem is composed of populations of organisms that interact within communities and contribute to the cycling of nutrients and the flow of energy within the ecosystem. Question: how are structure and function related in biology? Answer: the structure of cells, organ systems, or organs can be closely related to their function in biology. For example, neurons, which are cells found in the nervous system, have long, thread-like extensions which aid in passing information to other neurons in close proximity. Another example would be the shape of the teeth of various organisms. The shape of the teeth, that is structure, is related to the function or diet. If the function is to grind grass, such as for herbivores, the structure of the teeth is shaped to do that function. Hence, form fits function. Question: true or false? The cell is an organism's basic unit of structure and function. Answer: true. The word cell comes from the Latin word cella, which means small room. It was first coined by a microscopist who was observing the structure of cork. The cell is the basic unit of all living things, and all organisms are composed of one or more cells. Cells are so basic and critical to the study of life, in fact, that they are often referred to as the building blocks of life. Certain organisms, such as bacteria, amoebae, and yeasts, may consist of as few as one cell. A typical human body, however, contains about 1 trillion cells. Question: what does cell theory state? Answer: cell theory states that, number one, all life consists of cells. Number two, all cells come from previously living cells. All vital functions, such as chemical reactions of organisms, are carried out inside cells. Finally, cells contain necessary hereditary information to carry out specific functions and to replicate themselves. These are the major components of cell theory. Question: what do all cells contain? Answer: all cells contain, number one, a lipid bilayer boundary called a plasma membrane. All cells contain cytoplasm. They contain DNA for transmitting hereditary information. And they all have ribosomes for protein synthesis. Eukaryotic cells may also contain at least one nucleus and mitochondria for cell respiration and energy. In addition, cells may also contain lysosomes, peroxisomes, vacuoles, and cell walls. Question: what is a eukaryotic cell? Answer: the term eukaryote comes from the following terms: eu, which means well or normal, and karyote, which means nut or kernel. The word karyote refers to the nucleus. By combining these two words, eu and karyote, we get eukaryote. Thus, eukaryotes are cells with nuclei. Specifically, in order for a cell to be classified as eukaryotic, it must have the following characteristics. It must contain a membrane-bound nucleus and must be composed of membrane-bound organelles. Question: what are prokaryotic cells? Answer: prokaryotes or prokaryotic cells are a group of organisms that lack a cell nucleus or karyon. They also do not possess any other membrane-bound organelles. They differ from eukaryotes, which possess a cell nucleus. Most prokaryotes are single-celled, unicellular, but a few prokaryotes, such as have stages in their life cycles when they have more than a single cell. What does the acronym DNA represent? Answer: deoxyribonucleic acid. Question: true or false? RNA is a nucleic acid that contains the genetic instructions used in the development and functioning of all known living organisms and some viruses. The main role of RNA molecules is in the long-term storage of information. Answer: this is false. Genetic information is carried by DNA, which is copied and inherited across generations. Traits are carried in DNA as instructions for constructing and operating an organism. These instructions are contained in segments of DNA called genes. Question: describe the structure of DNA. Answer: DNA is a long molecule that looks like a twisted ladder. It is made of 4 types of simple units, and the sequence of these units carries information, just as the sequence of letters carries information on a page. Nucleotides form the rungs of the DNA ladder and are the repeating units in DNA. There are 4 types of nucleotides: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine, and it is the sequence of these nucleotides that carries information. Question: what does the acronym RNA stand for? Answer: the acronym RNA stands for ribonucleic acid. Question: true or false? A gene is the basic unit of heredity in a living organism. Answer: true. Genes correspond to regions within DNA. A gene is the basic unit of heredity in a living organism. All living things depend on DNA to pass on their traits to offspring. Loosely speaking, a gene is a segment of genomic information that must be taken as a whole to define traits. Question: what is the total complement of genes in an organism or cell known as? Answer: the total complement of genes in an organism or cell is known as its genome. Question: true or false? The human genome has 6 billion nucleotides. Answer: false. The human genome has only 3 billion nucleotides. Question: what is gene sequencing? Answer: gene sequencing or DNA sequencing consists of biochemical methods for determining the order of the nucleotide bases adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine in a DNA molecule. Question: advances in technology have made gene sequencing possible. What are these advances? Answer: the first advance is modern automated DNA sequencing instruments. The second advance is massive computational power through the evolution of computers. Question: what is systems biology? Answer: as we said before, systems biology is a biology-based interdisciplinary field that focuses on the systematic study of complex interactions in biological systems, thus using integration instead of reduction or reductionism to study them. Question: what is a systems map in biology? Answer: an example of a systems map is a map of interactions among proteins in a cell. Question: define bioinformatics. Answer: bioinformatics is the application of information technology to the field of molecular biology. Bioinformatics entails the creation and advancement of databases, algorithms, computational techniques, statistical methods, and theory to solve formal and practical problems arising from the management and analysis of biological data. Question: what is feedback regulation? Answer: feedback is a circular causal process in which some portion of a system's output is returned or fed back to the input. This is most often used to control the behavior of a system. Examples of feedback are found in most complex systems, such as engineering, architecture, economics, thermodynamics, and biology. Question: what is negative feedback? Answer: in biological systems such as organisms, ecosystems, or the biosphere, most parameters must stay under control around a certain optimal level under certain environmental conditions. Negative feedback feeds part of a system's output that is then inverted into the system's input. This results in the parameters of the system staying under control in a narrow range. Fluctuations in these parameters are therefore reduced. Here's an example of negative feedback. As we eat, we become less hungry, eventually resulting in our stopping. Between meals, we become hungrier and hungrier, eventually resulting in our looking for food. Without this seemingly simple negative feedback system, we would not be able to survive. Question: what is positive feedback? Answer: positive feedback feeds part of a system's output without any inversion into the system's input. This causes amplification in the output of the system. A small upward change drives the system away from its set point. Positive feedback results in instability. A common example occurs during conferences or presentations when a microphone gets too much sound from a speaker. The speaker sound is amplified, resulting in even more speaker sound to the microphone. The sound level quickly increases in volume, eventually overdriving the amplifier, resulting in that awful squeal that we all hate. Question: true or false? Feedback is a regulation process common only to eukaryotes. Answer: false. Feedback is a regulation method common to life at all levels, from the molecular level to the ecosystems to the biosphere. Feedback ensures that living systems are much greater than the sum of their parts. Question: what are the three main domains of life? Answer: the three main domains of life are domain bacteria, domain archaea, and domain eukarya. Question: what are the kingdoms that comprise domain eukarya? Answer: The kingdoms that comprise domain Eukarya are protists, fungi, plantae, and animalia. Question. In his book on the origin of species by Charles Darwin, he postulated three main observations. What were they? Answer. Number one, reproduction generates more individuals than needed to maintain a stable population, yet population sizes are generally stable. Number two, not all individuals survive to reproductive age. And number three, resources are limited. Competition for these resources leads to a struggle for existence. Question. How do biologists classify life? Answer. Biological classification or scientific classification in biology is a method by which biologists group and categorize species of organisms. There are 8 main taxonomic ranks that biologists use to classify life: domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Question. Based on his observations, what inferences did Charles Darwin make? Answer. The first inference he made is that there is a struggle for existence among individuals of a population. The second inference he made is that favorable heritable traits become more common in successive generations of a population of reproducing organisms. Unfavorable heritable traits become less common due to differential reproduction. This is the theory of natural selection. The third inference he made is that there are changes seen in the inherited traits of a population from one generation to the next. This is descent with modification, commonly referred to as evolution. Question. What is discovery science? Answer. Discovery science, also known as discovery-based science, is a scientific methodology which emphasizes analysis of large volumes of experimental data with the goal of finding new patterns or correlations. Question. What is hypothesis-based science? Answer. Hypothesis-based science is an approach where, first, observations are made, second, hypotheses are arrived at to explain the observations, thirdly, predictions are made, and finally, fair tests are designed to determine the validity of these predictions. Question. What is data? Answer. Data refers to a collection of organized information, usually the result of experience, observation, or experiment. Data may consist of numbers, words, or images, particularly as measurements or observations of a set of variables. Question. What is inductive reasoning? Answer. Induction is a type of logic. Through inductive reasoning, we can induce generalizations from a huge number of particular observations. Discovery science gathers data and generalizations are then derived by induction. These steps lead to a greater understanding of nature and of living things. Question. Define deductive reasoning. Answer. Deductive reasoning operates from the general to the specific. We can call it a top-down approach. We may propose theory about a certain topic. We then narrow it down to more specific hypotheses that we can test. We narrow down even further when we collect observations that support the hypotheses. This leads us to test the hypotheses with specific data. What results is either a confirmation or a negation of our original theory. Here is an example of deductive reasoning. If premise 1 is all organisms are made of cells, and premise or hypothesis 2 is that humans are organisms, then we can make a deductive prediction that all humans are composed of cells. Question: what is a controlled experiment? Answer: a controlled experiment is a scientific investigation in which variables are controlled. In its simplest form, a controlled experiment is done when the investigator consciously changes one variable, the independent or manipulated variable, which will likely cause another variable to change, which would be a dependent or a responding variable. To the extent possible, all other variables are kept the same and they are known as constants. Question: what is a scientific theory? Answer: a scientific theory is a coherent statement or set of statements that attempts to explain observed phenomena. In science, a theory is a testable model of the manner of interaction of a set of natural phenomena capable of predicting future occurrences or observations of the same kind. A theory is capable of being tested through experiment or otherwise verified through empirical observation. Question: what are scientific models? Answer: a model is a simple system which reveals important properties of a more complex system that you would wish to understand better. More than one type of model can be used to study the same complex system, each model shedding light on some different aspect of the complex system, but each model has limitations on what kind of information it can give you. Scientific modeling is the process of generating abstract, conceptual, graphical, and/or mathematical models.